Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We are nerdy for the birdies. The Philadelphia Eagles come off a thrilling 34-6 win over the Dallas Cowboys. Take care of business, and now they are currently number one in the NFC East. Hopefully that remains after Thursday. After getting our first win in Dallas after the last, I believe, 7 years at this point, I do have some reactions. Normally I like to do 5, but I really just have 3 main points that I want to highlight that are worth a little bit more of a discussion than trying to highlight just, 5 things. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the first half for mainly offense and special teams, where it definitely was very sloppy, and especially in a game like this, that is unacceptable. While Jalen did have 2 touchdowns, you can't turn the ball over twice like that. And look, I will say this, I think the interception was more of a good play by Trayvon Diggs than it was a bad play by Jalen. But that aside, you still fumbled, you took 5 sacks, you held the ball for long periods of time, and you just completely gave Dallas opportunities to hang around in a game that they clearly did not deserve to hang around in. And the reason why I said offense and special teams, there were also penalties committed. I think on 2 of our first returns on special teams were called back due to some penalty, whether it was a block in the back or a holding. On offense, you had false starts and holdings that backed up drives, and those led to sacks because now you were in 1st and 15, 1st and 20, and they lead to sacks because now you're dropping back. It's a very good pass rush. We saw it against the Giants. Now, the similarity between those games is the Eagles didn't have Jordan Mailata, which I'm sure he would help a little bit more, but it wasn't like Micah was lining up exclusively against Fred Johnson and winning that way. That wasn't really the way he was winning. The way that the Cowboys were just blitzing and overloading the pressure. Jalen has to play better than that, and he has to get rid of the football. The offense cannot take the penalties there in crucial drives, and special teams we can't, because we just need to play clean football, because the way you lose in this league is beating yourselves. But that's really my biggest negative point, and I think, that really ended right before the final drive of the second half, because they really, from that point onwards, the game turned around and the Eagles played the game that they probably should have from the get-go. I'm not a huge proponent of saying, you need to beat inferior opponents, because the fact of the matter is, anyone can beat anyone in the National Football League. We see it every week. Any given Sunday is the moniker everyone uses. But, let's be honest, we saw it, we saw some teams play some very ugly games and win today. The Eagles weren't exactly the ugliest win today, but the second half, if they play football games like that against competition like this, they will win all the time, and they will play very, very well and win by large scores and margins. Look, this is not the average Dallas Cowboys team we have faced in recent years. The defense is still very good, so putting up 34 points on them is, it's respectable. It's not as good as it's been in previous years, but it's still pretty good. The problem is the offense for Dallas, and it is very bad. And to see the second half, everyone turn it around and hold down Dallas and continue to embarrass them. We'll talk more about the defense in a sec. That's not a team that you should keep around in a game. And the Eagles pulled away in the second half, didn't look back. They scored the final 27 points of the game unanswered, and it was nice to see some of the play calling that they had, some of the things Jalen did, the way he moved through the pocket on both of his touchdown passes. Great to see Johnny Wilson get his first career touchdown. Jahan Dotson has another nice catch. So there's starting to be a little bit of chemistry there. We saw another great play with Saquon on a check down. Goddard got a touchdown today. Nice to see him back in the end zone. AJ did AJ things. A little bit of a quieter day for Javonte, but it was just more of the way the game went. But yeah, it was nice to see the offense just kind of come together. They ran the ball pretty well, and it didn't just feel like, alright Saquon, we have to give you 30 carries. No, he had 14 today. It was quieter, and I think they gave him a lighter load, and a lot of the offense a lighter load, because they know, hey, we got to go into Thursday and play. Washington for likely to stay ahead in the division, and that's a big game. And it's a short rest. It's a very short turnaround. And you look at it, you could pull your starters out the fourth quarter. Washington lost today, and they had to play all the way through. So they're going to be a lot more tired than we are. We're going to have an opportunity to rest up. We're home. Let's win in front of the home crowd. Let's get this big division, win to hold our spot in the NFC East. Because the NFC looks pretty competitive right now, and especially within our division with Washington. And if we can continue to hold the division lead, take it again, we're going to have an opportunity to potentially even be the number 1 seed. It's going to be a lot to get there, because we saw Detroit tonight probably play the worst they could, and yet they still won. But here we are in the NFL. So, one other thing before I move on to the final topic, I wanted to briefly bring up Cooper DeJean on special teams having a really nice return. I mean, he's making it difficult to make, to decide, do we keep him or Covey? I definitely think it'll be Covey, so he's fresher for defense. But it was nice to see him have that nice return that set up a touchdown as well. But yeah, good, strong second half is going to have us set and ready better for Thursday. We'll see what happens. But a big reason why the Eagles won the game the way they did was the defense, and they played their butts off. And look, again, I get it. They played Trey Lance and Cooper Rush. Still, though, forcing 5 turnovers is not easy, and they held them down. And there were some times in this game I thought, uh-oh, Dallas is coming back into the game. They had a drive where they were driving, and it looked like they were going to just take a touchdown lead, and they were going to pull ahead 10-7, and it just felt like they had a shot, and then they forced the fumble on the goal line, recover it, and get the ball back to the offense. And it's just, the craziest thing is the sequence after that is the offense fumbled it back to basically where it was, and they still held them out of the end zone, and they made them kick a field goal. This defense has really found its footing in recent weeks. Since the bye week. Now, let's be honest, the teams they've played aren't all that great. The best record-wise is probably the Bengals. But you saw what the Bengals offense did just this past Thursday. They eviscerated Baltimore's defense. I mean, Jamar Chase had 1/5 of the receiving yards he had in that game against us. Think about that for a second. I mean, you look at teams around the league and the ones that we're playing and whatnot. I mean, we held the Browns to 9 offensive points. We held the Giants to 3. We held the Bengals to 17. The Jaguars to, I believe, if my math is correct, 17 offensive points. Because they would have had, they had 2 touchdowns and then they had 2 2-point conversions. So, yeah, so 17 offensive points for Jacksonville. And then in this game, 6. You held Dallas out of the end zone, and you should against backup quarterbacks, and you should get multiple sacks and have 5 takeaways and all that stuff. That's what you want to see. This game got out of hand, and it felt kind of like the reverse of what I'm used to seeing in these Eagles-Cowboys games in Dallas, where it just feels like we start turning the ball over and it just becomes a landslide. It was nice to kind of do that to Dallas. So obviously, we got to do player of the game, and this was tough. I almost want to give it to Cooper DeJean, but I'm actually going to give it to Zach Bond because he had an incredible performance this week, and he knocked it out of the park. Quite literally, because he forced 2 fumbles. But, forced 2 fumbles, had a fumble recovery, had I think 8 tackles. CJ was also in the running, I thought, because he had the pick. I couldn't tell who forced the fumble on the Zeke play. They gave credit to Bond. I honestly thought it was CJ that did it. But, you know what? I'm going to give it to Zach Bond. It's his second time winning it. I think we need to have a conversation about how good Zach Bond is. I think right now Zach Bond is an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and the Eagles have to find a way to re-sign him. Because he is playing out of his mind. I mean, this is the best the Eagles have had at linebacker in years. Like, TJ Edwards was good. TJ Edwards wasn't this good. I'm trying to think of the last Eagles linebacker that was anywhere near this good. I mean, this guy is incredible. And for someone who's been doing it for as little time as he has, it's even more incredible. And all in all, a nice dominant win in Dallas. The Eagles took care of business, and now we can move on to other things. We got to focus on Washington, maintaining this lead in the division. And then from there, you gotta play other teams, but we gotta take care of business this week. Let's stay healthy. Let's take care of business, and maybe we can rest up over the long weekend and get ready for the rest of the season. So anyway, this is Bird Brain, Fly Eagles Fly. Hope you enjoyed being nerdy for the birdies. See you around.